Hello, Flight Sim fans. Currently, we're sitting at Shannon Airport in the city of Fredericksburg, which is the city that I live in Northern Virginia, or Central Virginia. We don't like to say we're part of Northern Virginia. We're not part of those psychotics. But I have a special treat for you today, and that is we'll have to get off the ground and see it first. Now, Shannon Airport's a pretty short runway. It's probably too short, realistically, for this Cirrus jet, but I'm going to go ahead and just lower off, add some takeoff flaps and take off the brakes, and I'll show you exactly what we're talking about. So, if like me, a lot of you fly VFR and low levels, this you're going to love. I mentioned it to Luna on his channel the other day. I'm going to go ahead and raise these gears. Um, Airspeed's over 100, and we'll raise it flap. But this is World to X-Plane, and this is the scenery that it adds. So let me go ahead and pause it here, and we'll go outside the plane and take a look. So as you can see, in the regular X-Plane 11 scenery, none of these industrial buildings are here. You know, this is the normal autogen scenery, these small, residential buildings, but none of these huge office buildings are actually in X-Plane 11. Default scenery. Now, the thing is, these buildings here are actually pretty much what they look like in real life. And see, the reason I'm doing it in my hometown is because it's easier for me to judge how accurate the portrayal of scenery is. So, I mean, it would do me no use to start this in Innsbruck in Austria, or Switzerland, wherever the hell it is, Austria, I guess, and try to judge the scenery, because I mean, I'm not from Innsbruck, so I wouldn't know. But let's go a little bit further. And it's so funny that I couldn't remember whether Innsbruck was in Switzerland or Austria, but it's in Austria. So as we go further west, we can see we start getting into the city of Fredericksburg, and they don't really look. These are pretty accurate, but they're not really like skyscraper type buildings. They're actually really like 18th century row houses or row buildings here, because the downtown section is colonial. So it was built in the 1700s. What I was pretty amazed at is once we get over here, this is Mary Washington College, or University of Mary Washington now, and these are the dorm buildings and lecture halls. Those are not in the default X-Plane 11. This is Jamesboro High School. That is not in default X-Plane C. None of these are actually in. This is a shopping center. This is actually the hospital that I was born in. It's not a hospital anymore, so now it's an office for the new hospital. And this is a shopping center, and it looks basically like that. Those are dorms and apartments and stuff like that. So yeah, a lot of this stuff is real. This is part of University of Mary Washington also, and this is their track, but you really can't see it here. But yeah, this is a lot. As far as the scenery goes, this is a lot. The building wise, this is a lot more accurate. Now I am running HD Mesh version 3, which here's the caveat though. I am using HD Mesh version 3. I am not entirely sure it's being loaded. There is a problem with World X-Plane on X-Plane 11. I reached out on the forum yesterday to ask, because it's having some issues loading some files. But I'm pretty sure it's loading HD Mesh version 3. I can't be certain. I looked in the log files. It's in there. But so let's move on, and I'll show you this building right here, we'll get a little bit closer to it before I talk about it. So this building here is our new hospital. And the interesting thing is that you see this little indent right here? Let's pause it. This little indent right here. This is exactly, if you were to look at this hospital from above, this is exactly what the hospital would look like. Because it has this little courtyard right here. What it is a courtyard, because on the first floor, on the ground floor, there's the cafeteria or the restaurant. And you can come out here and sit and eat. And this is a free clinic, and there is a traffic circle there. There's apartment buildings here, but it doesn't show it. It does show these apartment buildings though. And like I said, this is a shopping center. This is a shopping center. So yeah, so it's a lot more accurate. And this is a shopping center also. This is a high school. So it's like so much more accurate than the base X-Plane 11 default scenery. And as far west as we look up the Route 3 corridor and beyond, this is if you live in Northern Virginia and you travel up and down 395, which is right here, which is the main north-south artery on the east coast of the United States. This is Central Park. This is Spotsylvania Town Center. Everything like that. So, a hell of a lot more accurate. So, what we're going to do now is we're going to unpause it and fly north, because living in Fredericksburg, Virginia, I am only 45 miles south of Washington, D.C. So let's fly out to D.C. and we'll show you how accurate it is there. So we'll just get back in the plane and head north. An interesting thing is I was flying the Cirrus jet on X-Plane 10 yesterday, and I like it a lot more than this plane here, because you cannot use the GPS or anything for that matter on here. I mean, I think you can use the autopilot. Yes, you can use the autopilot, and I'm gonna go ahead and just set the heading to here. We'll set the altitude, and watch it go crazy. But I'm just go ahead and throttle it up and try to get there as fast as we can. What I actually want to do is I actually want to follow 395 if we can, which we are not doing right now. But everything I've seen on here so far has been pretty much how it is in real life on the ground. So if you're using something like Ortho 4XP or something like that, this could actually help you. Let's grab the heading here. Make your scenery look a little bit more realistic. I've stopped using ortho photos because for the time and the amount of hard disk space they take up, they're really not worth it. I will use HD Mesh version 3, and if you stay here long enough, you'll see why. Because HD Mesh version 3, the thing with ortho photos is they look like crap when you're just, if you're not seeing, if there's no mountains and there's no really terrain, then really it looks like crap, because it's stretched out. It's not a very high resolution. Once you get into the mountains, it looks, fantastic. But as far as, I never noticed there's a runway here. Once you get into the, once you get in the mountains, it's fabulous. But on the ground, and if you're looking at like shoreline, it's a lot better. But I'm hoping, I've had a look at the mesh tools for X-Plane 10, and they're very cryptic. It's really, you're just building a text file basically and telling it what textures to use, and it's just it's funny how we get, look at the smoke coming out the smokestack. It's funny how we get a halfway decent plane maker, but we don't get a very decent tool to build sceneries with. I mean, we get the world editor, and I've looked at the world editor, and to me it looks basically like it's used just to make airports. And I'd rather make scenery, custom scenery, than make airports. So we're flying over what would be Triangle / Quantico. This is the Marine Corps. Pretty sure that's the Marine Corps Museum. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. So this is the Potomac River off here to the right. This will be Route 1 here. This will be 395, so you have northbound lanes, southbound lanes, and then you have the HOV lanes in the center. For those of you who know how god-awful that commute is from Fredericksburg to D.C., which in a car in the morning takes you about an hour and 45 minutes to drive 45 miles. If you're driving in the afternoon, it takes 2 to 3, sometimes 4 hours, depending on if there's any accidents. This here would be Possum Point. It's a power station. So now we're flying over parts of Dumfries and I call it Dumfries, Dumfries, Woodbridge, Dale City, stuff like that. We really need to turn back to the more northerly here. And really it's not a huge hit on frame rates either, this World to X-Plane, which is, all it adds is the actual buildings and stuff like that. Of course it's not entirely accurate because over here would be Potomac Mills now, which is a shopping complex, shopping center. I was saying, it wouldn't be, sometimes it's not completely accurate because sometimes it has trees inside the buildings. So, but if you fly low level and you fly VFR, this is pretty much a must-have add-on. So this is Woodbridge. Back there was Potomac Mills. This is the Occoquan River. There's actually a rock quarry over here. There's a marina, but you really can't see it on here. Right here, there's really no houses right here. There's actually a beautiful state park here. I love going to. It's a waterfront park. So now we're in Fairfax County, that is. This is the airfield for Fort Belvoir. It's the Army installation, which is over there. I have no idea what this area is. I think it's an office park, but this is an Amtrak. I think this is the Amtrak yard for the trains. Not really sure. I think, yeah, these are the train tracks here. So that's what it is. This is for our Amtrak. This is where you load. This is an auto train yard here, where you can actually load your car up on a train and take your car with you. So you travel, instead of just driving your car, you can load your car up on a train. It's like a regular passenger train, except for it also carries your car. We call them auto trains here. I probably should have gone and looked, but Mount Vernon would be over here somewhere. You see the frame rates do get a little funky once you get further north because you're drawing a lot more. You know, the further north you get in Virginia, the more built up it is. So I live right at the edge of what we call Northern Virginia and Central Virginia. So our Rappahannock River, which is right there, actually divides as the dividing line. So the majority of our population lives in this area of Virginia, or down around Hampton Roads, which is near Virginia Beach. So you can see how built up it is. And we're getting closer to DC because there's the Potomac, and there is, off in the distance, there's KDCA, which is Reagan National Airport. I think it's over here. This is Alexandria here. This is the outer loop of the Beltway around DC. So the majority of these are all apartment buildings, for as far as I can see. Apartment buildings and office buildings. So here's KDCA, which is Reagan National Airport. It's actually the closest airport beside closest civilian airport to DC. The closest military airport would be Andrews. So you see it? It's pretty much it is. This is Arlington National Cemetery. There's no houses here. Arlington National Cemetery is with Fort Myer, which is where I was stationed at when I was in the Army, which is right here. Not a very big Army post, but it was fun because we got to run all through DC and over here through Georgetown and stuff like that. And so we ran through DC and stuff. So let's go outside the plane as we're flying. So there's KDCA, there's Pentagon City, there's the actual Pentagon. As we're flying over the Potomac, this is Memorial Bridge here, and right here would be the Lincoln Memorial. Over here would be the Jefferson Memorial. Actually, you can see the Jefferson Memorial right here. Let's go ahead and pause this. So you can actually see the Jefferson Memorial here. What else can we see? You cannot see the Lincoln Memorial, which would be in this elliptical circle here. You cannot see the Washington Monument, which would be right about here. And these are these reflecting pools really aren't. I mean, reflecting pool is square. It's not. I think that's Jefferson Island. But we're sitting over top of. This is Arlington Cemetery here. There would be no houses here. It's just a huge cemetery. This would be Henderson Marine Hall. If you'll watch Tomb, Change of the Guard, Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, that's where this is. Right there. This would be the Confederate portion of the National Cemetery. And that's the Marine Corps' PX on Henderson Hall. These are barracks. That's not Henderson Hall. That would be over there. I don't know what that is. This is the Columbarium. That would be our PX. Well, PX. No, Commissary PX. Barracks all over there. Headquarters is over here. Anyways, let's go. So let's get further into DC. This is like the Watergate building here, I think. Here's the White House. It's the ellipse. This is the White House. And if we pause it here, there's the Smithsonian Castle. And the museums that line them all. So you have the Smithsonian Castle here, and then the other museums. And the Holocaust Museum is over here. I think that's the Holocaust Museum there. And at the end of the mall, which this is what this is here, the mall. At the end of the mall, you have the Capitol building. So the White House is here, Capitol building there. So yeah, this is pretty much what DC looks like. Here would be, I think, is DuPont Circle. Maybe that's not DuPont Circle. It's too close. Army War College. Yeah, so this would be from the air. This would be pretty realistic of what you'd see if you're flying over DC, Southern Maryland, Northern Virginia, which is outside of DC. It's Maryland. Here on this side of the Potomac, here it's Virginia. So that's it. If you want to see the mountain scenery, I'm going to continue to fly the mountains. But if you just wanted to see how accurate World to X-plane is, this is how accurate it is. I may fly later into New York and see how that is, and flying from LaGuardia and flying to New York. But for right now, I'm going to head to the mountains and show you how HD Mesh version 3 makes those look. And our mountains aren't that great, but we do have some pretty scenic mountains. So let's go ahead and unpause it, and we're going to take this heading bug. I'm losing my voice. We're going to take this heading bug and shift it all the way to the west. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the... Why did it go back like that? Doesn't really matter, because I'm going to grab the VOR frequency for Casanova and fly to the Casanova VOR station, which is right here. So I'll just tune that to nav 1, and we'll switch to nav mode. And we'll head for the mountains, so to speak. Yeah, I think I'm getting a bit of a cold here because our weather in Virginia is very, very funny in the winter. Some days we'll have 60-degree days, like it was yesterday, and the next day it'll be 20 degrees. Of course, that's Fahrenheit. So if you're, oh, look at that tower. If you're talking Celsius, and you're talking like one day it'll be 20 degrees Celsius, and next day it'll be close to 0. It wreaks havoc with your sinuses. At least for me it does. So flying back over the Potomac here. And see, this is the only problem I have with the default scenery is the shorelines. We're flying back into Virginia. We're heading towards the Casanova VOR station. We will be as soon as we intersect the line, the radial. Yeah, I'm very impressed with World X-plane. Even though, I'm still having problems with it. When I load it up, it says the scenery might not be correct, but to me it looks correct. So another thing, what it tries to do, it tries to take away trees from where there really are no trees. So we are flying. Now we're flying at full throttle. I'm not for sure, but that might be Tyson's Corner. Expensive place to shop. Actually, I can tell exactly where I'm at, because for those of you who have flown with me before, you will know that I use an app on my tablet that's integrated in with X-Plane 11 called Flight Plan Go. It's available for both Android and iPhone or iPads. So if I make sure that as we intersect the 257 radial for Casanova, make sure that it's actually sending a signal from X-Plane to my tablet. Currently it's connecting, so we'll just wait for that to connect. So I actually have pictures of this Casanova VFR station we're going to. I used to drive by it all the time, and it looks like, kind of looks like the tip of a rocket sticking out of the ground. It's pretty cool looking. I've driven up to it and taken pictures of it. Because I was like, what is that? And then I was back. This is when I was living in Warrenton. I was back and I was playing Flight Simulator 10. And I looked, oh, there's a Casanova VFR station. So I looked it up on Google, and they had a picture of it on Google, and that's exactly what it was, the Casanova VFR station. This is pretty cool what these things look like. So here we are, we're flying over Manassas, which is what this is, this town here. And here's Manassas Regional Airport. As we continue our flight to the Casanova VFR station, which is just outside Warrenton. And I'm going to look in here. So this 257 radial is going to take me, looks like it's going to take me to the west of Culpeper Regional, which is right here, but the mountains I'm going to show you are right over here. So it's not, we don't have huge mountains here in Virginia. The highest one I think is 4,000 feet, which is small compared to what you see out west. So now we are That's Manassas there, Warrenton. I think it's Warrenton, yeah, Warrenton, Fauquier. And then here's Culpeper Regional, which is where I would fly in if I was going to visit my brother, who lives right out here somewhere. Where it's actually where I used to. This is Luray. Which is this is Linden, I think. Yep, Linden Vortec. So we're currently 12 miles, closing fast on it. If we're going to get up over the mountains, we need to go ahead and climb up to at least 3,600 feet. Let's make it 3,800. 3,810, so it's not going to give me 3,800. So let's switch over to vertical speed mode and let's climb at about 1,200 feet a minute. So we're not quite past the VOR yet. So these are the Bull Run Mountains here. Go from here to here, parts of the Bull Run Mountains chain. Like I said, not very big. And this is pretty much what it's like once you get outside DC and out west towards the Blue Ridge Mountains. It's all farmland and forests. And we are looking for one particular mountain. It's part of the Shenandoah National Park. And it's called Old Rag, which is I love going to Culpeper, and that's where I used to live at. I used to live on a farm just outside Culpeper. Well, it's about 15 miles from Culpeper. A horse farm, and my brother's there now. He takes care of the horses. But from my house in Culpeper, you could actually see Old Rag Mountain. Where you could tell is that the eastern face of the part of the mountain that faces east, has a huge rock slide on it. So you can just see the rocks you can see it from Culpeper, which is like 20 miles away from the mountain, 25 miles, and you can see it from there, and that's how you tell what mountain it is. It's the only mountain that you can actually pick out and tell for sure that that's what mountain it is. So, I'm pretty sure we've already overflown there, so let's see if we can improve the visibility here some. I don't like this haze that we have. Let's crank the visibility up here and see what it says. Does it make it any better? Makes it a little better. So this would be the town of Culpeper down here. And that right there is Old Rag Mountain. You can tell it because here's the east face, and you can see kind of a rock, the rock wall there. And where I used to live at would be right around here, except for it doesn't really show a field. But that would be Castleton Mountain there. That would be Battle Mountain. And where I used to live at, be right in here. And it's actually, it's only 2 miles from this mountain. Actually, this is Castleton Mountain, so it'd be right about there. Maybe. No, but it's further over here. Anyways, around here. Somewhere. So this is, like I said, this is Old Rag Mountain. This is all Shenandoah National Park, which is somewhere I love to go in the spring and summer and fall. I'm there actually a lot because it's only $50 for a season's pass, and you can hike anywhere in the national park. As you get a little closer to the mountain, so what HD, if you're not familiar with HD Mesh version 3, it just gives you a higher resolution on terrain. So it gives you, the mountains are, so in layman's terms, the mountains are more realistic and have more detail to them. So that's why you get HD Mesh version 3. Now if you want, HD creating files, downloading the HD Mesh version 3 files are pretty straightforward. If you want a tutorial on that, I'll make that. World to Explain is a little, from Simheaven, is a little sketchy because they have files within files, and you take those files out of the files and put them in your custom scenery, so that can be a little irritating. But that's the rock crawl on, and that's, you can see that for miles away. Now if we turn back to north, we can actually see, well, we can see it from here. This right here would be Stony Man Peak. I've actually done that peak, if you want to call it a peak. This is not Widow's Peak. What is it called? Willow Peak. I think it's Willow Peak. That's the one I want to do next. And you can see cars on Skyline Drive right here. My brother and I have done the Dark Hollow Falls, which is a waterfall in the mountains here. It's the first time I've ever seen a black bear in the wild, and not in a zoo or something. But yeah, so this is how HD Mesh version 3 has the mountains looking. Which, even with ortho photos, it really only looks good in the mountains, and when there's actually terrain to draw. This is HD Mesh version 3, and it's pretty good. And I don't have to download, I don't have to spend 4 hours or an hour creating one tile that's, like 8 gigs. Most of these HD Mesh version 3 tiles are about, I haven't seen one over 4 gigs. So depending on where you're flying. But anyways, that's enough rambling, and I will be back soon with more videos.